Okay guys, this is a quick video. Welcome back to the channel. Smiling Island RC. We got our big red dynamite. We're gonna do a three shoe clutch install video for my good buddy Andy. He's been having issues and he tells me, he goes, you make it look so easy, blah 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 blah. So anyway, cone, right, flywheel. I just went through this whole wrong flywheel. Don't do that. Anyway, nut, secure nut. I just like to do a quick little. Nothing too hardcore, but tight. Just tweak, tweak. All right. So having a flat back plate really makes it nice. I know it's not always easy, but having it laying like this. One thing I like to do, guys, I like to mark my flywheel at bottom dead center, so you'll see how my piston is moving. Bottom dead center. Grab your Sharpie, whatever. I use a Sharpie, and just somewhere you can see it. You won't necessarily be able to see the front because the shoe's in the way. Oops! Don't do what I did. Put it in the wrong spot. Not that that's too far off, but this back part is actually what's going to be more important when you're trying to do this. And the reason being, when you shut off a hot engine, it's always smart to park it at bottom dead center to let it cool. So if you give yourself a marker, and you can look at the bottom of the car or whatever, but you give yourself a marker where you can just do that real quick when you shut the engine down, that will save the pinch on an engine for a long time. That's actually how you can ruin an engine in the first 5 minutes, is by literally shutting it down and letting it cool off in the pinch zone, which is, you know, when it's up in that higher stroke area. So that's just a quick. While I'm doing this, it's what I do because it's in my hand and it's easy to do and so on. So first shoe, little dab of spit on the finger. Throw your washer on. Get your spring in your shoe. Not to be confused with pata-shoe. Okay, that was kind of dumb. Sorry, guys. This is my trick. See how these things love to just kind of jump out on you, right? So, if this one would cooperate, you're on camera. Don't be so nervous. Drop your pin. You can put your pick in, and then you've got a nice little secure spring and everything. You want to make sure your short side is on that side of the shaft. You put you on. You're just gonna make sure you find the one you put the washer on. First one's always easiest, because I'll show you in a minute why the next one is a little bit of a pain. And if you start it, once you start it, again, make sure your spring stays over there. Once you start it, double check that your spring is on the pin here, and then you can take your pick out. And then you can actually use your pick to also feed the spring down. Now, a misconception about the nuts without a notch: you don't need them. I've got a lot of engines with the straight yoke nut that doesn't have the channel. I haven't had any springs pop off. I haven't had any shoes come loose. I haven't had any clutch issues. So again, I mean, I'm not referring to race application. I'm not referring to, you know, anything hardcore. I'm simply referring to bashing and playing, and you guys see the extent to how I rip my cars. So I'm not a hardcore basher, but at the same time, I don't baby them either. So first one's always easiest. The reason the second one is harder is because you've got to sneak it in here once you're ready to drop it down. It makes it just a little bit of a pain in the ass. And then when the last one is, you are actually dealing with that twice. You're dealing with this side and you're dealing with this side, but I'm gonna show you guys. I don't have a clutch bell to put on here afterwards, so I'm not gonna show you guys spacing and all of that, but that's a lot of where these come in and where your bearing spacing comes in. You don't want your shoes or your bell rubbing necessarily on the flywheel. But I like to go this direction in my process. I don't know why, it's just what I do. But another washer. And again, washers aren't necessary either. A lot of that has to do with your spacing for your clutch. But this particular, see how things kind of get in the way. You just got to make sure your stuff is flush and flat and all that good stuff. Grab another shoe, another spring. These shoes come from a cheap clutch kit that I buy that I was going to install on this, but it wasn't quite fitting right, so we switched gears to a stepped flywheel. You guys are going to notice this is where it gets a little bit tricky sometimes. You got to kind of make sure that spring stays over there, and you got to slide this down. And again, once that spring drops onto the pin, you're golden. And then you can do that. It drops right on into place. Boom, boom, goes the dynamite. Why does it look like the washer isn't there? I see it, but man, it sure looks like it isn't there. And then give your spring a nice, just make sure it's all the way down. Again, the channel is not a huge issue, but just, I mean, if you have one, make sure it's down there in it. That makes any sense. Okay, shoe number 3. See how easy that went? Boom. How many times you guys sat here cussing and screaming and, man, I can't get these stupid shoes on. And this is where this can be a pain. Grab your little pick. Just move the shoe out of the way. Now this third one, this is a pain. Don't get me wrong. This is partially what drove me to go grab a pick and do it this way, because I kept dropping it and it was just frustrating. And you know, my girl was like, I thought this was supposed to be enjoyable and relaxing, and I laughed, and she makes a very good point. So I'm on, but I'm not quite on. I just want to make sure I'm on. Okay, now I'm on. How many times? You guys count how many times I said on? Now this side, just lift off. This side, lift off, and you're good. Drop your spring into place. Spring in channel, spring in the channel, spring in the channel, shoes down, and there you go. Your engine rotates this direction. So as your centrifugal force gets thrown out, your shoe gets thrown out, and it grabs your bell, and power is on. Brap, 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 brap. And you can actually get heavier and softer springs, really to dial in your clutch. I mean, I've got a 4-shoe clutch on my low C that's got 2 metal shoes, 2 plastic shoes, and I mean, it's a whole dialed in thing. So, but for bashing, these are awesome. I'll try to find the link because these, obviously it didn't work on the Dynamite. I don't know if it was because of the cone or what, but I just didn't want, for the purposes of the video, I wanted to make sure it was done. But I get these for like 15 bucks a piece or something like that. So they come from China. They're not horrible, but they're decent. I haven't had any issues. So, you know, you don't have an issue, you don't have an issue. I mean, but anyway, I'll throw a link to that one up on the page. Or up on in the description, and that's pretty much a 3-shoe change. Thanks guys, appreciate you watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and throw me a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. That's always appreciated. Thank you so much.